As we observe the 2025 March for Life, I want to take a look back at the wars that have claimed so many American lives throughout our nearly 250-year history. Now, America's been engaged in 12 major conflicts over that amount of time and numerous minor incursions as well. And sadly, we've suffered astounding loss of life defending the freedoms that we hold so dearly. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to tell you about the one war that we've been involved in that has claimed over 100 times the casualties of the American Civil War. But let's start there. Our most deadly conflict was, unsurprisingly, the Civil War, claiming over 650,000 American lives, this number including both military and civilian men, women, and children. World War II would come in at a distant second with just over 405,000 American casualties, and our third largest loss of life would be in World War I, where more than 116,000 Americans gave their lives in defense of freedom. All told, in every major and minor conflict that we have fought, America's given more than 1.5 million lives defending her way of life. Now, each and every life was a gift from God and created in His image, and all of the brave souls are mourned and grieved by their family and loved ones, of course. But there's another war that we've been engaged in for many decades that has claimed nearly 2 million American lives. The war on drugs has been fought in every major city and every rural community for nearly 50 years now. From 1950 through the early 1970s, overdose deaths were sporadic but began to rise during the counterculture movement due to increased use of heroin and other substances. In 1970, there were approximately 7,101 reported drug overdoses in the U.S. That comes from CDC data. The crack cocaine epidemic of the 1980s and early 90s led to notable increases in both overdoses and drug related violence. Overdose deaths climbed steadily, and by 1999, there were over 16,849 drug overdose deaths reported annually. Unfortunately, since the 2000s, the opioid crisis, particularly the rise of synthetic opioids like fentanyl, has led to a dramatic increase in overdose deaths. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, nearly 108,000 people in the U.S. died from drug involved overdoses in 2022 alone. Now, over 1 million people died from drug overdoses between 1999 and 2022, with, of course, synthetic opioids like fentanyl driving much of the recent surge. When you add in drug related homicides, the best calculations that we can come up with is over 2 million Americans that have died during the war on drugs. But sadly, all of these numbers pale in comparison with the bloodiest war that we've ever waged. And I promised if you stuck around here to the end, I'd tell you what that is. The war on the unborn dwarfs the loss of life due to military conflict or any drug epidemic combined. Since our Supreme Court ruled in favor of Roe v. Wade on January 22nd, 1973, this nation has aborted roughly 65 million of its own children. The vast majority of these children, statistically speaking, were sacrificed simply on the altar of convenience. Now, we're told by progressives of every stripe that the health of the mother and the health of the child are serious factors to consider, and that we should think about that when we make abortion law. But I want you to consider this: less than 5% of all abortions that have ever been performed are for the health of the mother or the child whatsoever. So it's vital that we remember the promised divine axiom that was given by the Apostle Paul to the churches in Galatia. In Galatians 6, verse 7, he says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever a man sows, that will he also reap." Now, that's true individually, but it's also true for a corporate setting, like in a nation. When we put this type of sin out, then God can only judge us. This war, the battle for our future, or at least for our future generations, and I would argue for the very soul of America, well, it's as important as any conflict that we've ever found ourselves embroiled in. And as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, I implore our new administration to protect all of their citizens, even the smallest and those that are most vulnerable. Because make no mistake, God is watching, and He indeed, as we were reminded in Galatians, will not be mocked. For Civically Minded, I'm Corey Wing. Until next time.